Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our today's virtual talk. My name is Richard Kipngeno, the Boarding and Membership Officer at Nature Kenya. It's a great pleasure having you today on board, and we are really happy that you created time so that we interact together and get to know what is happening in our mammal world. The talk for today has been proudly organized by our Nature Kenya's Mammal Committee. So just to set some ground rules before we start off, and I will request every participant to remain muted as the speaker continues with this presentation. And should you have any question, any concern, feel free to share through the chat box, and we will strive our level best to go through all of them at the end of the presentation. Also to let you know that this presentation is recorded and we will upload in our Nature Kenya YouTube channel at the end of the presentation. And also currently we are live in our Nature Kenya Facebook page. So let us also interact through our social media platform, and all will be well. So today's talk is titled How Ant-Plant Mutualism Disruption Affects Predator-Prey Dynamics in the African Savanna. And it will be presented by Douglas Kamaru, who is a PhD student of ecology at the Department of Zoology and Physiology at University of Wyoming in USA. And a brief about the talk. Over the past 2 decades, invasion of the big-headed ant in Laikipia, Kenya, has disrupted a foundational mutualism between the monodominant whistling thorn tree and their symbiotic bodyguards, ants in the genus Crematogaster. In exchange for food and shelter, Crematogaster ants protect trees from lethal herbivory by elephants. Big-headed ants kill and displace these native mutualists, rendering trees defenseless against elephants, which transform bushland savannas into open grasslands by breaking and killing adult trees. Using a combination of GPS telemetry, large-scale exclusion experiments, and generalized linear models, Douglas tested the hypothesis that open grasslands created by big-headed ant invasion would, 1, be selected by plains zebras relative to uninvaded areas, and 2, confer increased safety from predation by lions. Douglas' research interests span a range of topics in the ecology and conservation of African savannas, with emphasis on human-wildlife interactions and the integration of wildlife conservation into livestock production systems. For his master's work at the University of Nairobi, he combined GPS telemetry and field experiments to understand how the invasive big-headed ants reshapes dynamics between lions and their primary prey, the plains zebra. And his work has been generously supported by ASM's African Research Fellowship, the Rafford Foundation, the Biodiversity Institute, and the US National Science Foundation. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me the opportunity to welcome our today's speaker on stage, Douglas Kamaru. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for that nice introduction. And also you got it right about the project and what I was working on, or I'm working on. And today I'm going to try to do that, trying to connect the dots, looking at how that disruption of mutualism by invasion of some ants, invasive ants, disrupt the mutualism, or rather kills native ants, and therefore causing trouble to our systems, or rather, influencing predator-prey dynamics. So the topic is that disruption of ant-plant mutualism alters predator-prey dynamics in African savanna. I've been working on this project for the last couple of years in Laikipia, and it was also part of my master's project at the University of Nairobi. And to begin, we possibly need to understand what we mean by savanna ecosystems and what those and the drivers. Look at the drivers that influences savanna ecosystems. So savanna ecosystems covers about 20% of Earth and about 65% of Africa. And this ecosystem, or rather the savanna ecosystem, is defined by a mixture of trees and grasses, as you can see on this photo. And there are more trees than you'd expect to see in a grassland, of course, but fewer trees than you'd see in a woodland. And then what makes the savanna ecosystems unique is this well-balanced structure of trees and grasses that are maintained by a couple of or rather a combination of factors that including rainfall, fire, and herbivory. Now, within my study system, the whistling thorn tree occurs in a monodominant or in a monoculture and occupies about 40% of the study site. Now, there exists this mutualism, what we are talking about today, between the whistling thorn tree and the native ants of genus Crematogaster. So what is happening within the system that I study is that there has been there has been the disruption of this mutualism, and therefore affecting this tree, and therefore rendering this tree defenseless from damages by the mega herbivores. So what I'm saying here is there exists a foundation of mutualism between whistling thorn tree and these native ants of genus Crematogaster, in which whistling thorn tree provide native ants with food in form of extra floral nectar, and soaring thorns, the one that you can see around this on those trees, and the one you can see these ants moving out or rather walking around, in which they live. And the native ants protect the tree from mega herbivores. And the mega herbivores here, I mean the ungulates that are the weigh over 1 metric ton, and that include rhino, giraffe, and the elephant. Now, one thing that that is very unique is that this 3 milligram native ant, the native ant that we can see here, effectively protect the whistling thorn tree from mega herbivores as big as elephant, which weighs about 6 tons, and which again are known to be highly destructive in nature. Now, however, there has been a serious global concern regarding the invasion of the big-headed ants in the ecosystem, particularly in tropics, as you can see on this map. The big-headed ants has been considered among the most invasive species globally, causing serious effects on the ecosystems where they invade, including the extinction of some taxons or some species. For example, they have been attributed to extinction of some butterflies and beetles in Hawaiian Island. Now, over the past 2 decades, the invasion of the big-headed ants in Laikipia, in which my study site is, which is highlighted there on that map. I need to get the pointer on this map here. Has disrupted this foundation of mutualism between the whistling thorn tree and the native ants. And then the big-headed ants kill and displace the native ants, rendering whistling thorn tree defenseless against herbivory, particularly by elephants, which break and kill these adult trees, thereby transforming this savanna ecosystem into grassland. Okay, so I did this study in Norpegeta Conservancy in Laikipia, which is 90,000 acres private conservancy. And what they do is actually they integrate wildlife and livestock. So what I'm showing you here is a preliminary result from an experimental study that I conducted, trying to look at the interaction between the mega herbivores and the native, the mega herbivores and the big-headed ants on visibility. And the visibility here, a mean, is actually a point, is actually a distance from a point to an obstruction. And that obstruction could be the whistling dawn tree or any industry cover. Okay, and that is actually a surrogate of cover. So that means, and our results here shows when you exclude the mega herbivores, you have high or you have low visibility. And this means there is high cover within that particular area. When you interact the mega herbivores and the big-headed ants, the graph you can see here, that shows that there is high visibility, and that means that area has low cover in terms of trees. Yeah. Now, so I therefore seek to answer two questions. And one of the questions then was, how does then big-headed ants invasion alter selection by plain zebras? And to do this, and then the second question was, how does the big-headed ants alter habitat selection by plain zebras? So one of the things that I looked at first was to look at to justify whether the zebras are the key prey species for the lion within my system. So these two graphs I'm showing you here were created from opportunistic kill site data collected by anti-poaching patrol in North Conservancy. And the graph on my right shows proportion of lion kills between 2010 and 2020. And what it shows is that, and the x-axis shows all the prey species within North Conservancy for lions. And the y-axis shows the proportion, proportion of kills. So what I'm trying to show here is that the zebra comprises about 50% of all zebra, all kills within the conservancy. The graph on my right shows cause-specific mortalities for zebras between within the same period, 2010-2020. And the x-axis shows the carnivore species within Olpegeta, and y-axis shows the proportion. And therefore, what this one shows is that the lions, 90% of mortality for zebras are attributable to lions. So the second question I was looking at, or looked at, was, does big-headed ants invasion change where lion killed zebras within that system? And I looked at a couple of things, and this study here, this question was advised by a study that was done by Caroline Bueno in Opegeta Conservancy. And this is actually the graph I'm showing you here on my right. And the y-axis shows standardized site kill coefficients. And this just shows the magnitude, or rather the strength and direction of effect of that particular covariance. And this shows that lions were more successful at killing zebras in areas of low visibility, which was characterized by high tree cover. Now, to answer my first question, how does the big-headed ants invasion alter habitat selection by zebra, which are primary prey species for the lions? I randomly selected about 12 transects cutting across the entire conservancy. And then I used distance sampling to estimate spatial and temporal variations in zebra densities across the conservancy, and computed resource selection functions for Mandry-derived transects. Later then, I combined Mandry-derived transects with resource selection functions to create spatially explicit density map, like the one you can see on my right, which was for February 2020. Now, I then validated that using camera trapping, from the camera trapping, and the y-axis on this graph shows the densities from distance sampling or rather animal counts, and then the x-axis shows the capture rate from the camera traps, and the capture rate here is defined as the ratio of independent photographs to the number of trap days, then you multiply that by 100. And what this result shows us is that there was high correlation between those two particular data sets. One, the distance from, the density from distance sampling, and that from the camera trap. Now, in order to estimate variation in zebra densities, I looked at, or rather, I looked at densities for two surveys, or rather between two surveys. So, like for example, the one I can show here, I'm showing here on my left, is zebra densities for January 2019. And then the second one that I'm showing on my right is densities for February 2019. So for me to be able to understand what the density was on 15th of January, I used what we call weighted average. And the graph, or rather the map you can see below, that is for 15th January. It's most kind of similar to both, like it's a combination of both, because the weighted average was kind of divided in between the both surveys. However, for 22nd January, the weight is actually more biased towards the 1st February. And therefore, this was very important because then I could be able to attribute each kill site with the density estimates at when and the day that that kill site occurred. Now, our results from the resource selection functions shows that zebra select for areas closer to big-headed ants, then proximity to water or closer to water, and closer to grades. And the grades are nutrient-rich grazing grounds derived from the cattle collars or bombers. So this one then answers our first question, whether the big-headed ants influences habitat selections by zebras. Now, to answer my second question, does the big-headed ants change where lion hunts on the landscape? And with the help of the Kenya Wildlife Service veterinarian, we captured and collared 6 plights, 6 lionesses from distinct pride within Olpejara Conservancy, that which are represented by different colors within this map. And then they actually, the 6 plights represented over 80% of individuals. And then lion at Olpejara form cohesive groups such that the movement of one lioness or one colored lions is a good surrogate of for plight level movement or rather group movement. So what I'm showing you here, all these dots, like let's say the red dot here you can see in the eastern side. This is actually one of the eastern plight that moves around, and therefore you can be able to attribute the colored lion with the whole plight. Now, to identify the kill sites, because I also looked at the kill site, I use cluster algorithm, which is defined as over two successive GPS locations occurring within 100 meters of each other, which I've circled, which you can see circled on this particular map, which are clusters from that eastern pride that I mentioned. Now, within each or at each kill site or actual kill site and paired random point. And what I did is that the paired random point was located about 500 meters from actual kill sites. I assessed for 2 variables. One was visibility, and then places and absence of big-headed ants and the native ants. And then what I did with visibility is taking the distance from a kill, all at random point. And this, for example, is actually what I'm trying to show in this diagram here. I looked at a distance, measured a distance with a rangefinder from a kill to the closest obstacle. And this, in this case, maybe it could be this acacia here, or maybe any other obstacle. And then another variable looked at is the places and
And Douglas, we can't hear you nicely.
Of big-headed ant and native ants, and what 500 meters of each side to bake. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
You can hear me now. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I think my internet is unstable. So yeah.
Sorry about that.
So we're here. So what I said is, and I'll repeat, to be able to, or rather at each kill site, I looked at two variables. One was visibility, which I said visibility is just a kind of a distance from a point to an obstruction. And what I did here was I had about 5 kind of transect from my kill set. And what I looked at is, what I measured is, or rather I used rangefinder to measure distance from a kill site or a random point to an obstruction. In this case, maybe this particular tree or any other obstacle that was along the 200-meter transect. The second variable that I looked at is whether there was big-headed ant or native ants. And what I did with that is actually I visually inspected all trees within 500 meters on each side of each transect. And then I used toner to bait in areas where neither native ants nor BHA was detected. So that's actually the two ways I actually looked at the variables. So the results for resource selection functions for lion kill site showed that lion kill zebras in low visibility areas, as you can see in these particular results here. And lions actually, another one was actually in areas of areas where the zebras were low or they were few. And they also killed in areas where lion activities was high. So those are the kind of three things that that were selected by my topmost model, or rather resource selection functions model. Now, to summarize, I have shown you 3 results at this point. And the first one, I've shown that through experimental solution, we've shown that a big-headed ant increases visibility in the presence of mega herbivores, because elephants browse and kill those trees where native ants mutualists have been extirpated. And then the second one I've been able to show you is that through drive transect, I've shown that zebras select for proximity to big-headed ants, and thus occur in higher densities in invaded areas. And then finally, another point that I'm trying to show, or rather I've demonstrated, is that through telemetered lions, I've shown that zebra are killed less frequently in areas where visibility is high. However, what I've not shown you, or rather the question I've not answered, is this one. Because visibility can be higher for reasons other than big-headed ant invasion. So I've not answered this yet. And I've, in terms of does big-headed ant themselves reduce predation risk to zebras by increased visibility, increasing zebra density, or both? Therefore, to answer this, I built a series of structural equation models, which takes into account multiple correlations among predictors. For example, visibility was partly here. Visibility was partly visibility was partly driven by distance from the invasion, and the visibility here is a predictor of probability of zebra kill. So I looked at different paths. So what I did is, in addition again here, I included predictor for lion activity based on the 95% kennel utilization distribution. And actually this kind of what I'm showing you here right now is my global model, or what we will call full model. with all predictors included. Now, this full model, group model, did a decent job in terms of describing my data. And the betas here shows standardized path coefficients, which indicate the strength and direction of one variable on another while holding others constant. The thickness of arrows correspond to strength of effects, the one that you can see or the one that I'm showing here. Now, my interest, or what I was interested on, was to show how subset of this model explain the data. So I use model selection framework to compare among set of about 10 pathways hypothesized to drive the probability of kill. And now I'm going to take you through maybe 3 of them. Maybe you're gonna take time if I take you through like 10 of them. And the first one that I'm showing you here is that the big-headed ants increases visibility. That's what you can see here. And then affecting the probability of increasing, and then affecting the probability of kill of kill site directly by making zebras harder to kill, and indirectly by changing zebras numbers. Okay, and then what again we can be able to note in this particular part or particular model is that there was some indication that zebra actually killed what zebras actually were killed where they were low or they were low, which is indicated by this particular coefficient here, or negative coefficient here. The second one I'm going to show you is that the path big-headed ants increases visibility, which is this one here, and then visibility affects lion activity, and then affecting kill occurrence or zebra kill occurrence. And then again on this, there was some indication that zebra were killed more in areas of high lion activity, which is shown by this particular positive coefficient, which is this one here. Now, another of the final one was this one that I'm going to show you today, that visibility was driven by the big-headed ants, in turn drove probability of lion or kill occurrence, and that is the zebra kill occurrence. And this simple model was the best selected model that I had in my studies. So this particular model shows that the BHA actually influences the zebra kill occurrence. And this one then answers our question whether the big-headed ants actually, influences where lion kills zebras within a system that is being influenced by in an invaded system by the big-headed ants. Now, so I've demonstrated that a tiny invader has reshaped a predator-prey dynamics involving lions and their most common prey-preying zebras. These occurred because the invasive big-headed ants outcompete and kill native symbiotic ants, leaving the monodominant whistling thorn tree vulnerable to elephants. Then the elephant then transforms savanna landscape into more open grassland, where visibility is high and where zebra can presumably better detect and invade lions. So future avenues for research might possibly, involve whether lion can adapt to this more open landscape, either by learning to effectively hunt zebras or by switching from zebra to other ungulates that do not require visibility. So we don't know what's going to happen if this kind of trend continues, whether, for example, lions are going to change, or rather they are going to, we know actually lions do not directly pursue, their prey, just like wild dog, So what they do, they ambush their prey for them to be able to kill. And therefore, this is likely to, influence how they hunt. And we don't know, maybe in future they'll start pursuing animal or not. So yeah, that was it. Short one, thank you very much. I tried to make it short so that we can follow our vote counting. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I very much appreciate. I'll take any question.
Okay, thank you very much, Douglas, for that insightful study. Very, very informative indeed. To our audience, the floor is open for any questions that you could be having. I don't see any question that has come up so far through our chat box. Just a thank you from Julius Okonji. Thank you very much. So I will welcome questions and concerns that you could be having. We still have the speaker who will be able to answer them right here. So you have an option, you can drop them through the chat box, or you can raise your hand, then we give you an opportunity to unmute and you can speak up. The floor is yours. Okay, I see Dr. Musila. You can raise your question.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Douglas, thank you also for the talk. It's very interesting what is happening in Laikipia savannas. I have two questions. Douglas, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. So you said the big-headed ant is very invasive.
Yeah.
But what? So I would like to know why it is invasive, and when it colonizes the acacia trees there, is it that it is not how they get destroyed?
Musila, we can't hear you nicely.
By the herbivore. I come from Lois. Sorry?
We can't hear you. You're breaking up.
All right. I was saying,
yes.
I was asking the question that you can hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I was saying that the acacia, this ant is very invasive, but I was wondering, is it when it invades these acacia trees, it does not defend them properly, and then they are destroyed by the herbivores in the landscape, and that is one. And two is that I come from Lower Eastern, and we have acacia trees there of different species, but they don't have the bores like the trees which are in the black cotton soils in Laikipia. So I'm wondering whether they can also colonize trees without these bores. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Msila. The first question is, why they are invaders. It's because, yes, indeed, they don't protect the tree. So they come in there and then they kill and displace those native ants of genus Crematogaster that are very important in protecting the tree. So after that has happened, then the tree is left vulnerable, and you have elephants coming in there and breaking those trees and killing them. Then, the area becomes open. So yeah, that's actually what is happening with them. And then I'm not very sure about your second question, whether they can be able to colonize or rather invade, the trees or acacia trees that don't have those particular variables, or rather, the goals or something like that. But possibly, yes, though it's not something that I can answer right now.
Okay, thank you for the response.
Thank you, Douglas.
Okay, yeah. I see from the chat box, there's a question from Margaret Vaz. I think she's in Canada, if I'm not wrong. Hi, Margaret. She's asking, where do the ants come from originally?
All right, thank you very much for that nice question. Originally, they are not well known where they came from. But they sort of say, or rather the literature that I've read is they say that they originate somewhere from Ethiopia. But it's not actually clear where they originated. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Welcome, Margaret. From Rupi. Hi, Rupi. How are you? Maybe I can give you an opportunity to ask if you won't mind. I see no much questions. Can unmute and ask, Rupi?
Hi, Douglas and Kip. It's a really interesting talk. So a couple of questions. Yeah, these big-headed ants. So you say they come from probably Ethiopia. I mean, when were they first detected in Kenya? What is the rate? How fast are they invading the ecosystems, the savanna ecosystems in Kenya and beyond in Africa? And lastly, I mean, I don't understand how the elephant's behavior is affected by these big-headed ants. I mean, the elephants will clear trees, but how does the big-headed ant affect their behavior? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ruby. Your first question is, yeah, the research says like, okay, although it says it's not very clear where the big-headed ant originated, but there's like, it says somewhere Ethiopia, so not very sure, but also it invades, or rather they invades more tropics compared to other areas. And your other question was the rate of invasion. We did that, and we tried to look at how fast they invade, and it was about 80 to 100 meters, if I can remember, per year. So it really spreads pretty fast per annum. Globally, I can't tell. Looking at that map, you can be able to see what has been happening. It's really spreading pretty fast. I don't know how many years that does. That data. But if you're looking at this, you can, it's spreading almost all over in tropics. You find these particular ants. When they invaded Laikipia, again, it's not known. No, they say it's about a research that was done by one of my collaborators, talks about a couple of, let's say 2 decades ago. So exactly now people are discovering what is happening because it's more research being done right now. People didn't know, scientists didn't know what kind of these ants, and then they realized later they were causing issues within the ecosystems in Laikipia. So it's not well known when exactly, like whatever, like I can't be able to mention a date when they invaded, but I think we can give that range, like the last 2 kind of decades. The behavior, how they are, the big-headed ants are affecting elephants' behavior, is actually mostly in areas where we have those big-headed ants. And I mean, we have native ants. In this case, I'm talking about native ants of genus Crematogaster. They are very effective. There are about 3 species of them, and they are very effective in protecting this particular acacia or another, whistling thorn tree from high damages by mega herbivores. Because, we have all these mega herbivores, we have elephants, eating on the same tree. We have giraffe, we have rhinos. And therefore, if we have that kind of these 3 mega herbivores on that particular tree, there is high pressure. And therefore, to reduce that, what trees has done is actually, it has involved this foundation kind of mutualism. And that's between the whistling tree and those native ants, whereby those native ants protect the tree from high damages by these mega herbivores. And that is the kind of relationship. So in areas, what we found out, and I've been able to show that using that particular graph, is that in areas where you have elephants, you don't have native ants, you have high damages by elephants compared to areas where you have these native ants. And that's a clear demonstration that these native ants really protect that tree from high damages by elephants. I don't know whether I've answered your question, Ruby.
Yes, I have two more questions, sorry. So
Okay.
the one is how do these ants, the native ants, protect the thorn trees? Is it that they sting the elephant, for example? Do they go into the elephant's nose, or they bite the giraffe lips, or what? Or do they have a mechanism by which they release some pheromone? You know, I can't sort of, I'm trying to imagine how they do that. And secondly, is there nothing that can stop the invasion of these big-headed ants? Is there no known
Right.
mechanism? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those very nice questions. Yeah. So yes, indeed. So these ants really stings. You go try touch them, or the moment you touch the tree or shake the tree, they come out, in numbers, a lot of them. And what they do, they sting. So they are actually, I said there are three kind of a species of them. And what happens is that we have one that is very aggressive. We call them red black. And what happens is that they come out and try to sting elephants, and also entering the nose and so on. So elephants don't want to deal with that, so they avoid that. So the moment they touch that tree, they find those ants there, they just have to leave the tree. So you have those trees that they don't have ants. I mean, you have those trees. If you go to, for example, Vegeta, and go in areas where you have those native ants on those occasions, those trees are very healthy compared to areas where you don't have those. So that's actually what's happening. I know a lot has been done, because there are some areas like the Hawaii Island I talked about, where there is this big-headed ant, excreted like some butterflies and beetles. So they try to use some chemicals to try to deal with this situation of these big-headed ants. But however, in our Vegeta Conservancy, what they're doing, they are trying to now, because they've not, you can deal with this situation in two ways. One is to try to eliminate or rather eradicate the big-headed ants. Another one is try to manage the habitat. And what Vegeta are doing currently is actually the managing the habitat by excluding areas that are highly damaged by elephants. And some of those areas because of these big-headed ants. And therefore, after you exclude, and then you don't have those mega herbivores, elephants coming in within those exclusion, those trees are allowed to regenerate. Rather, they're allowed to regenerate. And then that way, then you are able to rehabilitate that particular habitat. But I think the solution here, based on my own understanding, I think the best thing is to try to eliminate them where possible. But again, you need to look at the mechanism, better mechanisms, how to do that. I'm not very sure whether we'll want to, for example, advocate for use of chemical like in the other areas of using, because possibly by doing so, you end up affecting other intelligent species and so on. So yeah, so there is a couple of things. I'm sure there are a couple of things that can be done, and one is trying to rehabilitate the habitat and so on. So yeah, thank you very much.
Just one last question, sorry. How did they come into, how are they spreading so fast? How did they spread into Kenya so fast? And why just like here, or are they in other places in Kenya as well?
I'm not very sure whether they are in other areas of Kenya. It's only that my study, I did it in Laikipia, and that's where I know they are there. That one I can assure. So maybe they could be somewhere else. But these species, or rather the big-headed ant, is spread by people moving around. And you can tell, by this map. So people carry them, and on their luggages and something like that. And then another thing that I realized is spreading them pretty fast in Vegeta is because of the livestock, because not really the problem here is not livestock. Let me put that clear. It is because once you integrate this livestock and you have these metallic bombers that you're moving livestock from one point to another. So these people carry with them this particular big-headed ants, and therefore it ends up spreading quickly. So for example, if you put bombers in one area that is invaded, and then you end up, when you're moving, you might carry 2 or 3 of those species and move them somewhere else where you go and set your camp for the livestock, those bombers. So I think that's also one of the factors that is, attributing to first kind of rate of spread of this particular big-headed ants. So possibly in Laikipia and in any other places, but yeah. Thanks for those nice questions, Rupia.
Okay, thank you very much, Douglas, for that. I saw Robert Angela had raised his hand. Maybe you have a question, Robert. You can unmute and ask.
Okay, thanks, Douglas, for the presentation. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thanks for the awesome presentation. I'm also coming at a very good time when everybody else is very restless, even though they're denying that they're not anxious. They are anxious. So my question is, are you looking at this from the benefit that it gives to the lions or the benefits that it gives to the zebras? Because from the presentation, do you then conclude that the BHAs are beneficial to the what do you call it? Would you say the BHAs are beneficial to the zebras or to the lions? Because I understand if the BHAs get rid of the native ants and then interferes with the acacia ant mutualism, then the tree is left undefended and so vulnerable to breakage by the elephants, right? So that means then there is high visibility. And we all know that there's a landscape of fear for animals. So animals, the herbivores, there's kind of trade-off between either feeding and also watching out for predators. So would I then be wrong if I concluded that the BHAs are beneficial to the zebras because there is increased visibility and then there is then low chances of them being hunted down? Don't know if you got my question right.
Douglas?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Did you get the
Robert,
question?
I'm sorry, I think either lost you or something like that. But I get your question. I get your question.
I can repeat the question if you didn't get it.
No, I did get your
okay.
I did get your question. Thank you. Yeah. So the question was whether then the big-headed ants are beneficial to zebras or lions. I think depends on how you looked at it. You can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, depends on how you look at it. Yeah, because what I was looking at is, yes, indeed, zebras might benefit from them because at the end of the day, they are able to avoid them being killed by lions. But then lions need to eat, right? They're endangered species as well. So if then the area is open up and the lions are not able to ambush and be able to successfully kill their prey, and which is mainly Laikipia is zebras, then that brings a problem. And then within these ecosystems, then if the area, if we look at it, if we flip the coin and then look at it in terms of then the whole area is open and then you have a lot of zebras, then there won't be that balance. So it's a matter of, both carnivores and prey exists, or rather the rails are there to be able to create this particular balance. And if they are not able to create that particular balance between, between what we have in terms of prey, then we end up having a lot of zebras that are gonna affect other species, and then the whole system is gonna collapse. So we're looking at balancing, or rather creating a balance between all these particular things. So that is, I think, if I can answer that way, yes. Yeah, depends on how you look at it. Zebras can benefit because they're not going to be killed a lot by lions, but then the population of lions is going to decline because they will not be able to successfully kill and eat. So yeah, I think that is that's the way I can answer it, if that makes sense.
Okay, great. I see a couple of questions from Leo. Leo, I will give you an opportunity to speak and ask your question.
I think most of them have been tackled. Like maybe the one that maybe wasn't tackled is how do the BHA kill native ants, whether they just displace them or whether they eat them, and then whether there are any control measures for the BHA because it seems to be disruptive. So have there been any efforts to control these BHA, or we are yet to get a solution to them? And then the origin, I think you've handled that. And then generally it was about the future of savannas, basing that the BHA are really spreading fast. Like what next for the savannas? What will we end up seeing in the near future, maybe 10, 20 years from now? Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much, Leo, for the questions. Yes, indeed. The big-headed ants actually eats the native ants and displaces them. So the moment they invade somewhere, they kill them, eat them, and then the native ants have to move. But then, if I can repeat that, is that remember again, the big-headed ants don't protect the tree, and that is the big problem. If they were protecting the tree, then possibly we will not be having this particular problem. Lupi asked the same question about the control measures, and we said, there are some other places like Hawaii and Ireland where they use chemicals to try to deal with the situation, or rather, try to deal with the situation of big-headed ants. But we say, like, for example, you need to be very careful, particularly when you're using those chemicals, when you are trying to, for example, do with this, because you might be affecting other species that are the unintended species within the system. And therefore, the best way, and what we're saying is, and what our projects are doing, they're excluding those areas that are highly damaged. That's the approach they've taken, so that those areas can be able to regenerate. I've showed that even with the presence of those big-headed ants, and then you exclude the mega herbivores like elephants, you can still be able to manage your habitat, and you have those trees growing or regenerating. Another question you've asked is, what is future for savannas? For real, it's not known, in fact. And also the future of lions within this particular invaded landscape is also not known what can happen, especially, and I said this, especially, for example, think about it, if you have a species here that doesn't pursue their prey directly like wild dogs, they have to use those obstacles or those obstructions, or rather they have to hide or conceal themselves for them to be able to hunt their prey. And therefore, if they cannot be able to do that, then is a problem. So in future, in terms of looking at savanna ecosystem as a whole, as a system, it can get very complicated because things starts collapsing in their sense. If the whole predator-prey dynamics, we've seen that, like this tiny invader is able to collapse that particular predator-prey interaction. And therefore, yeah, so we don't know, honestly, right now. So maybe something needs to be done so that we don't get in a situation where we are seeing lions pursuing zebras directly. So yeah, because that's not their behavior. They have a long-term kind of a strategy, or historic strategy that they've been involved over time to be able to be successful in hunting. Yeah. Thank you, Leo.
Thank you, Douglas, for that. I see a comment from Carol, the guide. Insightful and informative talk. Thank you very much. And there's a question, actually the last of the question in the chat box from Margaret Vaz. And I think, Margaret, I will give you the opportunity to ask your question. It's a very nice question.
So Douglas, a really great talk, because actually I am in Canada right now, and I've been noticing these big-headed ants in my house. And a couple of times I wasn't even sure what they were, because normally we have the tiny ones. So clearly they're spreading. But in Kenya, we have the anteaters. So are they able to eat those big-headed ants?
Not very sure about that, because I'm not very sure whether there's a study that has been done looking at that. But possibly they eat them, but it's only possible, maybe there are many. And then another thing that might be difficult for those ants to be eaten, because they're not exposed. They really hide. They live in those cracks within the the substrate, like the soil underground, and also hides in those cracks, in those trees. And therefore they are not, like, let's say a bird fly might not see them. They really hide. And so on, yeah. So I'm not very sure about that, but that could be a very good study to look at whether those birds eat those big-headed ants. Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very good insight. Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah, indeed. It's actually those ants, you're seeing them in our houses sometimes, eating our sugars and so on. Those are the big-headed ants we're talking about.
Yeah, and they can give you a big bite.
They can give you a big bite, indeed. Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that, Douglas. We have exhausted all the questions and comments that was raised through the chat box, and also, we've given all the audience, the participants who raised up their hands to raise their questions. Thank you very much for that. I hope I have not.
I have one question.
Yes, Rupi.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know how to raise hand. I can't see that. But anyway,
No problem. Yeah.
What about in terms of policy? You do make recommendations, and do the policymakers, the government, people in government take note? Has this been discussed in any of the 5-year, 10-year action plans by KWS in saving any of the species, ecosystems?
I've not seen that in any policy. I think this is a kind of new research that is coming up in terms of people trying to understand what these ants are doing and so on. Because what I know, the first paper that was published in Laikipia by Corina looked at how the rate of innovation and the rate of damages elephants are causing as a result of these innovations. So I've not seen any other particular work that has been done yet looking at them. I know right now there's a lot of interest looking at what's happening with these particular ants and so on. Maybe, yeah, Rupi, I think going forward, it's going to be very good. It's good to discuss at that particular level in terms of how then can policy come in, and and what can be done in terms of developing mechanism or strategies that are robust to be able to deal with this kind of thing. Otherwise, if we leave it like that, then it can be a problem. Yeah. So right now, I have not seen this. I have not seen any strategy that is there to address the situation, or rather the big element. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the response. I see we don't have any other, or if there's anyone with a burning question, I will give you an opportunity before I hand over the program to the Mammals Committee, to Leo, to give us an announcement.
I'd just like to ask Douglas, it's Margaret, where's your research taking you next?
Okay, thank you very much. My research is taking me next to trying to I'm collaborating with other guys trying to see how best we can be able to address this situation in terms of the strategies and control measures that can be done to control the big-headed ants. So that's where we are heading now, and also trying to map other areas. The research is always limited by resources. So we like, as Lupi asked about whether other areas within Kenya we have these big-headed ants, and whether other acacias can also be invaded and so on. I think there is a huge opportunity in terms of research and looking at everything, and so that at the end of the day we can be able to make informed decisions and come up with proper strategies and control measures. Yeah, so right now what I'm thinking, or we are thinking as a team with the guys I work or rather collaborate with, is the control measures and try to test a couple of them. Yeah. Thank you very much, Margaret.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I will invite Leo from the Mammal Committee to give us an announcement, and then I will also close up with some few announcements I have from the desk. Leo.
All right. Thank you so much, Douglas, for the great talk. It's been interesting to learn about BHA and all that stuff to do with lions and zebras. Thanks so much for accepting to give us this talk today. So maybe just a brief announcement is that we have a mammal app where we record sightings of mammals. So you can easily download that app to your phone. It's called Makenya. So if you just type Makenya in the apps, you can get that app on your Android phone or on your iPhones, and you can help us to map mammals wherever you visit in Kenya. So it will be really helpful if you help us to map mammals in Kenya. And then following that, we are expecting it to be a big launch on 24th. We'll be launching the app at the National Museums of Kenya. So we invite you all to show up, attend and see how we launch the app and how it works. And after that, we will have a few demonstrations, maybe at Nairobi National Park, and then visit also the Athi-Kapiti Plains just to demonstrate how to use that app. So we invite you all to be part of that initiative. So thank you so much. Unless Simon Msila has something else, he is our patron.
What time and where?
Okay, so the launch will be on 24th from 2 p.m. So after you show up at the museum and attend to bird walks, just after the bird walk, don't go home, show up for the Mammal app launch. We will really appreciate your presence. Yeah, Msila, if you have something to add on, thanks.
Thank you, Leo. I would like to thank again Douglas for his time and for sharing with us about the ants and what is happening in Laikipia. It's very interesting, and many unanswered questions whether this ant is going all over Kenya and trying to change the landscape. I would like also to thank the participants. We were 19 when we started, and now, okay, we ended up to 26 participants. Now we are 20. This is good. This is good. This is good for a talk like this. I would like also to thank Nature Kenya for organizing all this and making it happen. Advertising, yeah. So thank you very much. The Mammal Committee is just a coalition of people who are interested in the conservation of mammals. And so if you have not joined, you can actually join us, and so that we can always work together and to improve on issues that affect mammals, their habitat, and things like that. And because of COVID, of course, we have been doing online talks, but previously we were meeting physically and trying to do this talk. But actually, even Zoom now has given us an opportunity that we can spread our message far and wide. So yes, as Leo, the chair of the committee, is saying, we have Makenya, that application. We're inviting people to use it so that we can record mammals where they are found in the world. Mammals are everywhere, even inside our houses, there are mammals, rats and all that. They are in protected areas and outside protected areas. So, and these mammals have not been mapped. And so that is why we have a mobile application that can be used. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, we to the launch on 24th this month, and keep looking forward to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon. I just enjoyed
Back
being
to
able
Richard.
Yes, Bas, Margaret, continue.
Simon, I thank you, because honestly and truly, it's wonderful to be able to participate in these talks from Canada and wherever I happen to be. So being on Zoom has made it really accessible for someone like myself, who's very dedicated member of Nature Kenya.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And it's always a great pleasure having you on board. So there's a question from Cece through the chat box. He's asking, are we mapping all types of mammals through this app?
Okay, only wild mammals, not livestock. So yes, all wild mammals. If you go out and you see a squirrel in your garden, you can actually map it. Or if you cannot take a picture, you can actually describe what you've seen, and yeah, people can help you to identify the species. So yeah, we are mapping all wild mammals wherever you can find them. You can actually even when you find carcasses, or even complete bone structure, you can even take a picture and send that highway. There are many carcasses that have been mammals which have been killed by the traffic. So we will be happy to get that. Yes, all wild mammals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that response. So also to give you another announcement is that on 30th of this month from 3:30 p.m. we will be having another virtual talk. Actually, this has been organized by the Institute of Primate Research, the IPR, and we're doing it together with Nature Kenya. And on 1st of September, it is the International Primate Day, the IPD, and to commemorate the day, they will also be doing a virtual talk, and they will also be having about 4 panelists who will be answering all the questions that pertains primates conservation. An official communication will be communicated through the email. We'll give you all of you the invitation, and we welcome all of you to join us on that particular day. Otherwise, thank you very much for joining us for this virtual talk. It has been a great pleasure. We've really learned a lot, and to the Mammals Committee, we can't thank you enough for organizing this talk. Thank you very much, and have a nice weekend, everyone. We can leave at our own pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.